You all set? All right. We're gonna open up the Water Source Commissioners meeting. It's October 5th, and it is 7:05. President is Colin here, Bob Josie, Bob Sullivan. Start off with the Assistant Manager report, water and sewer report.
Alright, so we'll start with the water. Start with August. So total gallons of water pumped was 6,086,900 gallons for an average of 196,352 a day. Used 415 gallons of KOH and 253 gallons of batch solution of chlorine. Sampling for the month, everything but the raw water at primary came back clean. That came back positive for total coliform, but negative for E. coli. No action was required by DEP, but we chlorinated the well field. That was right after we had rehabbed the whole well field. So we had all the well caps open, and we're in there with air compressors and pipes and rehabbing those to the well field. System repairs. He repaired a leaking chlorine fitting at Glen. The radios were added to all the meters on Southwest Main Street, South Street. Complete service line replacement at 12 Gilboa Street. That was damaged by a contractor. Is that running right? Just
play and record.
it just sounds like it was
Oh,
louder than normal.
It was getting old.
you got
Time
it?
for a new one.
Monthly maintenance, tank inspections, pH probes calibrated at primary and turbine, replaced 1 meter, did 1 final read, had 2 new connections and meter installations. We had bulk KOH deliveries to all the pump stations. Advised homeowner on Hemlock with E. coli contaminated well. Did meter reading, Brookside water and sewer connection planning, and went to the trade show up at Massachusetts.
So on the Brookside one, is that going to tie into the existing? Did you find that Y?
We didn't find it yet, but
Okay.
we kind of planned out where it was based on the information that was given, and
Yeah.
said this is where you should be tying in. They had asked if they could just tie it in.
This is E. coli on Hemlock. That's-
Yeah, it was something outside of our purview, but
Yeah.
someone from the state called me and asked me if I could go assist the people. And being the person that it was that called from the state, I figured it was best to keep good relations and
When did they call us?
help
and let
out
the
residents.
Board of Health.
They did call the Board of Health. I don't think Board of Health is quite as versed as we are in
We probably defer
in
to
water and
Yeah.
contamination. So
Mm-hmm.
so we went up there to assist them, kind of gave them the run through, and they ended up drilling a new well, and we chlorinated the old well to chlorinate throughout the house and system, and get it so that they'll be able to hook up their new well and have potable water instead of extremely contaminated water.
Well, too.
No, the new well came back good. The old shallow well came.
Oh, it's a shallow well.
Yeah, they had readings up in like 20,000 on E. coli.
those shallow wells are just runoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you get from that stuff.
So.
Unless it's a good gravel pack.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't a good scenario for what they had and what was in the vicinity that was the most likely cause of the contamination. So.
Well, it's good to help out anyway. I mean, because they're going to defer,
Yeah.
the professionalism that you have on that, so
Yeah.
the knowledge.
Anything else on that month? All right. So September. Flow total is 6,998,600 gallons for an average of 225,761 a day. 500 gallons of KOH used, 317 gallons of batched chlorine solution, samples for the month. Bacteria sampling was done on the 21st. 4 routine sites tested positive for coliform, negative for E. coli. We increased the chlorine levels, and all the samples returned clean. 56 Main Street required 2 rounds of testing there. We think it was more related to the sample site than the system itself.
Where was the sample site taken?
It's the outside spigot at the highway department.
Oh, okay.
So, system repairs, there was a lot of the obsolete electrical gear was removed from primary, unstuck some ejector pump in the filter building, worked on the sump to headworks, gravity drain line, monthly maintenance, pumped out West Street PRV pit, tank inspections and cut the grass at both tanks, replaced 7 meters, did 9 final reads, 5 new connections and meter installations, chlorinated the tubular well field, 4 Franklin groundwater intrusion at service line entrance, dry locked. The hydrant at 80 Main Street put out of service. Assisted aqua aerobics tech with the filter rehab at the treatment plant. Possible leak investigation up at the Schuster Chalet driveway. Went up and traced out lines behind 207 Main Street. There's 2 gate boxes out behind their house, kind of up along the property line where Schuster's property is. Riley's. We still haven't determined if that's a leak or if it's groundwater. So
Where is that?
when you drive up the driveway to the chalet, so where
Chris Gray?
yeah, past Chris Gray's, kind of in line with the garage where the basketball courts are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming out of the ground right there at the corner, like where the basketball courts are. But we don't have a water line that goes up that way, because the water line for the chalet and Hare's old house come off of the Schuster line through the woods, up on the other tree line.
All right, so it doesn't connect up through there, right?
Right. So
What feeds the chalet is?
the chalet's fed from
and
the line off the end of Riley's line.
That doesn't come off that road?
No.
Or whatever, the driveway or?
No. And then it's Billadou's house now. It was
Yeah,
Caves.
Caves,
Or,
yeah.
So that one's fed from the driveway, like right across from West Street. The driveway, and it comes in up the front.
Mhm.
So we don't have anything going up that road. So it seems like it should be.
What about the other houses that are up there?
There's the chalet and the Hare house. They're both fed off that line off of the.
Oh, they're both fed off that line.
Isn't there 2 houses up there besides?
I thought
Isn't there 2 up there? Is there 1? Just 1?
there's just one house.
That Beards? So
There's
Beards.
Billadou's
yeah, Billadou's, and then only 1 up, and the
then
chalet.
the
one
Hare
up.
and the chalet.
I thought there was 2 up there for some reason. I didn't know if there was one time. It's Timmy's sister, right? Is that Timmy's?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
Which one? The Hare?
Yeah,
sister or sister-in-law, yeah.
The one they used to do the piano lessons.
yeah.
I think she passed last month.
Oh, did she?
I believe so. That's what I was told anyway.
What was that?
I believe she passed last month.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. I think you're right.
Jeez, I was talking to him today.
Yeah,
I didn't even know about it.
yes, I forgot about that. It was kind of quiet. Yes, she did.
And we marked out some of the trees up at Glen that need to be cut down. Any questions, comments on that one? Monthly sewer report for October. We had 6.45 inches of rain. Flow was 5.531 million gallons for an average of 178,000. Cinegrow hauled 113,100 gallons out. Wasted 106,155 gallons for an average of 3,425 gallons a day. We used 615 gallons of alum, no sodium hydroxide, 305 kilowatt hours of electricity, and the river average was 738.276. That's
I'm not having any problem with the ocean this year. Huh?
and so that's I think that's the first time, and I can't tell you how many years that we've gone well over in August on the river flow.
20, what do we have? What do we have?
My side of the lake came
What
up
was the-
7 inches, 7 or 8 inches since yesterday morning.
Yeah,
Total was
it's just been a crazy amount of rain. And, yeah, I think July had more than August. We had a lot in August. We passed third quarter toxicity testing. The Tropical Depression Fred and Hurricane Henry brought excessive weather issues. We had Helgerson back in to aid with the Gilboa pump station, keep up with the high flows, and we had an Allen delivery. The October meeting, or the September report, the October meeting. Rain was 8.7 inches. Flow was 7.3 million gallons for an average of 243,000 a day. Centerville hauled 78,300 gallons. Wasted 118,195 gallons for an average of 3940 a day. We used 642 gallons of alum, no sodium hydroxide, 309 kilowatt hours of electricity, and a river average of 971.793 cubic feet per second. September, we're preparing for the fourth quarter toxicity and waste sludge analysis. We now need to replace the blown CPU for the disk filter. This is one of those, and this is one of the ones I told you is extinct now. And it's running around $18,000 to replace one. So we're kind of scouring the internet and everything else trying to find some. So we are running off of one filter right now, and that filter we just rehabbed. So we put new 5 micron filters on the number 2 filter, and we swapped the CPU from disk 1 to disk 2 to get that one up and running.
So what is CPU? What is that?
It's the control. This is kind of the brains.
Yeah.
So this is like the computer that controls everything.
Okay.
So you've got this as the computer, and then there's a bunch of analog and digital input and output cards. So those are just kind of the turn on, turn off switches, and this is the computer that tells everything what it's supposed to do.
So kind of it's an important part.
Yeah, you can't go without it.
There's no way around that.
No, I did get pricing because we knew we were going to be up against this. I've got pricing from Aqua Aerobics to upgrade to all the new electrical stuff, but the pricing they gave me was only to upgrade like one train, and we have 2 in each of everything. I want to say each filter was, I don't know the numbers exactly off the top of my head, I've got it on the computer, but I was going to bring it up at budget time, but like one train for the filter was around 33,000. We need 2 of them, and then for the SBRs, I want to say it was 73,000. We need 2 of those. So we're looking at a significant amount of money on those. What I'm trying to do is scour the internet and find whatever I can for parts. We have some spare parts for the analog ins, digital ins, analog out and digital outs. But it's the CPUs that are the biggest ticket item. All the other cards are $4,000 or $5,000 a piece, as opposed to, but there's a lot more of those. So we're getting as many spare parts as we can to operate as long as we can off of the existing. The only downfall is if you had some major electrical issue that wiped out a bunch of them, at that point we'd be in trouble.
So what is so I guess the long range is then obviously we know the parts are getting limited on this stuff. What is going to be like the
long term
short,
is
long term,
right. So short term we're going to get the spare parts we can, with warranties that we can get, to make sure we have enough to get through any regular instance. The way it's set up is we have 2 trains, so if one goes down, we can operate off of the second, but you don't want to rely on just the one for too long. So we'll have spare parts to do any repairs that we can in the short term. And if we have any significant issue that wipes out most of a train or something, that would be where we'd need to upgrade to the other. And short term, we could keep one running, upgrade the single side,
Yeah.
get that up and running, work out the bugs, because anytime you upgrade something, there's always bugs. Work that out, and then come up with a plan to replace the second train. So that,
So how much time do you have, I guess, time-wise, when you replace it and then need to upgrade at that point? Like, how much of a window do you have to, and then a cost associated with something like that?
I did find a company that can like rebuild these cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a company working on a proposal to rebuild this one, because I think we can get them rebuilt at a significantly
okay.
less than the cost of new or used. Because we have the component. It's hard to find them now, so if they have them, they're more expensive. If you have one that you can give them for them to repair, they'll do it at a
Mhm.
significantly
That makes
less
sense.
cost. So
What's the turnaround time on repairing it?
they told me it'd only take 2 to 3 weeks.
No.
So as long as we have some spare parts and I can,
Yeah, keep shuffling it.
if something
Yeah.
happens, I
Yeah.
can switch over, send those to them, get them repaired. But at some point, it's going to be not replaceable or
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
we do need to start planning for a significant upgrade at
Upgrades
some point.
on all the electronics and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
So it's going to be a significant expense, but
Mhm.
like I said, I want to get us enough stuff and put us in a position to get us far enough along that we can plan it out
Yeah.
and not
That was my,
not be under any emergency.
yeah.
Because it costs twice as much if we had to call up and say, I need this now.
Yeah.
So we do have like kind of budgetary numbers and quotes from the manufacturer, and that's the other problem is the manufacturer on this stuff is the only person you can go through. I mean, we can get used parts and remanufactured parts through other people that have taken them and
Mhm.
redid them, but a lot of the stuff here, like even the filters, it was a ridiculous amount of money to do.
It's all proprietary.
Right. So I can't get them anywhere else because they're specific to their treatment. So it's a great system, but the downfall is
It's like Apple.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we replace the filters. All right. So here's the other issue: is IPS took out pump number 2 down at the Gilboa pump station. It had 1,301 hours on it. And that's the one that they had repaired. So we spent a significant amount of money having them pull it out and rebuild it and put it back in. Unfortunately, the majority of that was labor, pulling it out and putting it back in, just because of the headache of the situation you have there. For you're 20 feet underground through a steel tube. That's
Who's that down here?
yeah.
So it was repaired and it failed after that? So it only had 1,300 hours of
Yep.
what do they have, what do they usually run for a normal pump? How many hours do you usually get on it?
Well, we haven't had to replace the pumps that were there, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine, okay.
Oh, so
So
that's a
that's-
short
yeah,
period of
that's-
time. Then 1,300 hours sounds like a lot, but
yeah,
it's
so
not.
right. I mean, it's a significant amount of hours. It gets a lot of use down there,
Mhm.
but
And it's-
the fact of the matter is that's an old style pump. It's not the new cheap versions, and we spent a lot of money to rebuild it. They claim it wasn't anything to do with the parts they replaced or the workmanship, because they used the existing impeller that we had, and that's what let go the hub on the impeller. Their claim is that it had nothing to do with their work and everything else, and that it's not covered under warranty. And they said that it must have tried pumping against a closed head, which that's a centrifugal pump, and recommendations on operating a centrifugal pump, like on startup and stuff, they tell you to close it, so you operate it under a closed head, and then you open it once it ramps up, because it's under less load, less amp draw when you start it up that way on a centrifugal pump. If you try to operate a positive displacement pump with a closed head, something's going to blow up and break. Not the case on a centrifugal pump, so I don't know if they're just trying to bank on people's lack of knowledge of these, but so they said it was either went against a stuck chuck valve or something, which, like I said, that's not going to cause that problem. Or 2, they said it must have sucked something through and hit the impeller with a rock or something that might have came through, which could be a probability, but I find it highly unlikely, just because if something's coming through, the chances of you hitting the hub and breaking something, because that's the center,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing there to really hit as opposed to hitting an impeller
Yeah,
vein.
yeah.
You'd think you hit an impeller vein and it breaks off. Okay, you hit
Right.
something, you
Yeah.
sucked it through. But so they gave me a quote. I called, complained. They took the pump out to go through to figure out what the problem was. Said it wasn't a warranty item, and I want to, we paid like $13,000 originally. That was including a new motor, which was a couple thousand. So they're quoting a little over $5,000 to rebuild it again and put it back in. So I'm kind of at the point. It's like, all right, do we wait and see if we get the MassWorks grant
Mm.
and
I know,
try to get by with the one pump, which was the old pump, which we didn't want to wait for last time, but we're a lot closer to. If it would have been 6 months down the road, I wouldn't be as concerned.
How
But
close are we with that? It's still dragging, huh?
we should hear within a couple weeks on the MassWorks. And I think all the other things right after town meeting, we should have a better idea. But that's November, so it's a month from now.
Yeah. I still think that that's the case. We still should have a backup. Just
I agree. I hate to
spend the
yeah,
money.
I hate to
but-
throw away the
Yeah, we're not gonna have a
5,000.
choice because I mean, even if things start going, by the time we get a new pump station down there, you're talking a year or two.
Right, you're talking probably at least a year. I mean, they want to move quick, from what I understand, but there's still a few hurdles to get over to make sure it happens.
Yeah.
So I hate to take that chance and try to make it through a winter
Yeah, it's not-
on one pump. So I did.
You know,
I
that's the
complained. They
choice.
said that they emailed. I talked to a couple people there, and they said, well, we value you as a customer, so we're willing to reduce some of the labor, and blah blah blah. So I asked them to send me a revised proposal, which I haven't got back yet. But
Well, whatever they can do.
hopefully you get it down a little bit. But that's just
Yeah.
it's one of those things that happen,
And if
and
it goes, it'll be more than it'll cost more than that.
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, if the second pump goes down,
Yeah.
we're going to be spending more than that in pump trucks
Just-
trying to keep up.
Figure it out.
So
So,
Yeah, what you have to do is gotta pump it, right?
yeah, or come up with. I mean, me and Steve were looking at ways to, that pump. It's out of the way. We could hook up like a fitting and put it above ground. So we got a hose coming up to a pump and then go
Pump
back
it back
down
down
into the
in.
discharge.
mhm.
We're trying to come up with scenarios, but if it happens in the middle of winter, now you're.
Dealing with it.
Yeah.
If it was only a couple months away, I'd say we float on it with that concept that we can
Mhm.
come up with something to get by. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it breaks down during the winter, we're screwed.
right, I don't want to try to leave a pump out there in the middle of winter,
No.
to try to get by. So
Can't do that. It's one
How
of those
often
things.
is
It's
that?
it's a cost of
Cost
If it
of
was a
doing business.
continuous running, it might be all right, but if it shuts down for,
Right.
a half a day or a day,
Yeah.
it could freeze.
yeah. Alright. That was it. Alright, and 2 meeting minutes.
Yeah, maybe that's pass
So
on
on that,
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on those because you weren't here. And,
I'm gonna pass over the minutes and project update.
all right, so project updates. Like I said, we got applications in for MassWorks. We've had discussions with a bunch of different things that we're trying to get some funding through to see how much of this we can get covered. To do this project down here, we applied for a $350,000 grant to cover another portion of it. And then I know Bob was talking to someone about another match, which would essentially cover the entire cost between some of the contractors, developers, the grant, and the other grant. We'd have the majority of all these projects on this end of town covered.
That'd be nice.
But that's pushing to
Yeah.
try to get all of them. But
I kind
you
of
know,
lost track of where we were in all that whole thing. I've been
yeah. So I
kind
mean,
of
the,
out of the loop, so
the
it's-
first thing is the MassWorks. Once we hear from them, that'll trigger the other ones
That's going okay.
to move forward. There's a couple small things that need to get cleared up at town meeting in order to make that a viable project.
That should be any problem foreseen on that. I think it's good.
I think we're gonna be in good
Yeah.
shape. I think we actually going through that process.
Mm-hmm.
I think we found out that we had some more value there. that they're gonna try to capitalize on, so.
Okay, good.
I think overall it's gonna work out even better for us, so,
Oh, good.
you know, as a town, as a whole.
Mhm.
So that should be favorable. I think we have a good chance of getting MassWorks, so it's just a matter of how much they'll offer, and if we can get some of the other matches to fall in place.
So how about the extension going, was that part of the MassWorks? When did they pull that out, the one going to the Tri-Town, or was that still?
No, we included that.
That's still
Yeah,
included?
what we
That's-
pulled out,
I was gonna ask you, that's still included?
yeah, what we pulled out was the gas.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So we
okay.
pulled the
You did-
gas
you did
portion
tell
of
me
it
that.
out, and we kinda told one of the contractors, you were willing to donate this, take this much out, put it towards the gas. That way you can negotiate with, you know, the private company that owns the gas, and we'll focus everything we can on the water and sewer infrastructure.
Mhm.
So the gas was pulled out of the MassWorks because it's a private company trying to, you know, the state doesn't wanna fund a private project,
Mhm.
which is reasonable, so. I mean, from my perspective, I look at the potential and how much gas they have to sell, and it's a no-brainer for the gas company to put it in. You know, we shouldn't have to fund any of it, but, you know, obviously
Yeah, but
they,
that means tapping into that line, is that,
it's not that line that comes across,
no?
it's Eversource, which is in,
oh, it's the other line that's coming in from Whitensville.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, extending that
I
way.
was
Yeah,
just
so
talking
that-
about that, gas line, and there's no way they can tap into
yeah,
that.
you can't tap that line,
No.
no,
You could if you put a, what is the
yeah, the
gen?
Cogen.
Cogen, yeah. But there's
Yeah, it's
nothing.
not really
on
a
that, yeah.
practicality over
Yeah.
here, there was a potential for it in
Yeah.
the other location, but. So, yeah, I mean, me and Bob are talking constantly and trying to work every angle we can to make everything fall into place. And, you know, it's a lot of hoping that one thing
Yeah,
falls in,
yeah.
and everything's all based on timing. You gotta hope it all falls within
Yeah.
the timelines necessary, so.
Is there also a problem with the land, or is that straightened out yet?
That's one of the issues that needs
That's
to be
still
taken care of at
tying it up.
town meeting, just to, I think the issue's pretty much clear, but just to make sure it's clear, I think that it's gonna get taken care of at town meeting.
Hmm.
And like I said, in that process, we found other land that was to our benefit, so. We're still working on some preliminary plans and submission to SRF for the Main Street project. I think with the whole gas thing, it kinda messed up some of the ARPA funds that we were trying to count on to try to go forward with the Main Street, but hopefully we can get some of that worked out, and it turns out we can still use that for that.
The ARPA money,
Yeah,
so for the,
for the Main
Main
Street
Street.
project. You know, that was the initial intent of trying to get that project to move forward, so we had some funding for it. But regardless of the ARPA funds, I'd like to still put that plan forth to SRF, just because with all the discussions on the infrastructure and all the money that they're trying to throw at infrastructure, anytime I've seen infrastructure grants and everything, they all get distributed through the SRF, and if you weren't on the SRF list, you're not eligible.
mhm.
So at least if we're on the list and we're moving in that direction, if we get approved, at least we're eligible for it.
Mhm.
And then it's a matter of
Probably erasing another tape, or was that a new one?
oh, I don't know, I didn't put one
I
in.
didn't put it either, so.
So we're probably going over last month's. Anyway, so it's all dependent on, you know, we just want to make sure we're eligible
Mhm.
for any funding that comes down the road. So depending on what the cost of that is and what grants are available, I mean, the line needs to be done. I've brought that up in the past that, you know, it's our main trunk line. The entire system pretty much relies on that one main, and we've had, I want to say it was 11 or 12 breaks on that line in the last 10, 11 years. So it's definitely high on the priority as to what needs to be upgraded.
And that was up to right where South Street and
Well, right now,
Into that
we kind of included everything.
all the way up.
So from Franklin Street all the way to Camp Meeting
Yeah.
and up Church Street and looped around down Northwest Main. So that included all of that.
Okay.
The theory is you don't want to, if you're applying for all this, you want to put everything you can. If we say, hey, if everything doesn't fall into place, and we say, all right, we're going to take a smaller approach. We're only going to go from here to here and accept less of the SRF money. So be it. But we at least want to, who knows if they come out with some great grant money and they cover 75%.
Yeah.
It would be crazy not to upgrade everything we can in that whole area. And then our main trunk lines, basically the end of these roads, southwest, something straight down.
All the way.
Camp Meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
So southwest, all the way straight as you can go to Uxbridge would all be new ductile. All down here, the main trunk line would be ductal.
So what's up the other
Davis.
end? If we stop at Camp Meeting, wasn't that already replaced?
That was replaced.
That was
so,
replaced, yeah.
so why they started at Camp Meeting and went down and not
Oh.
come back to like Webster Street or
yeah.
somewhere in that area. I don't know why they left that much of
Just
Southwest
throw transit
Main.
in there?
It's cast.
Cast, oh.
Yeah, it's old cast.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it wasn't the Translite before.
It was
they
Translite
changed
going
I
it.
up.
believe it was Translate
So
further
maybe that's
up.
what started going up.
Then they changed it, yeah.
I know, but if you're changing old pipe, because I've had two breaks just in
Yeah.
that section on Southwest
Mm.
Main,
Yeah.
so I wish they would have came back at least to the intersections so that we're not ripping up anymore because they just paved Southwest Main not too long ago.
Mhm.
I hate to be ripping it up and after you just paved it. So
Yes, we had a blow-off line at the end of that because of the transite pipe.
yeah,
Yeah, they used to run it. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't they run that up for Dickey?
Yeah,
Because
it was right up by Dickey's where they had the blow-off line.
Yeah, there's no water up there.
Yeah, just running 24 hours a day.
No water, no well water, that's for sure.
yeah. So there's some other conversations we'll have at some point about that end of town and going down towards Dickey's and everything. Just because I've been, we've got data loggers and I've been going out logging what the pressures are and trying to hit all the key areas and endpoints and highest elevations. So pressure-wise, that's probably one of our lowest pressure areas. So
Up there.
yeah,
Yeah, it gets starts climbing up
yeah,
there.
you can't go any further than that.
Yeah. That's why there's a cell tower up there.
Yeah, so if you wanted to go any further, we'd have to go further up that end and find another spot for a tank and put a
Yeah.
tank up and probably a booster station somewhere in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah. 'Cause there's nothing else up there. There's
Right.
nothing up there to
Yeah, so I mean,
justify.
unless they started developing some of that farmland up there, or whatever. But yeah, I don't see any potential down there to continue down unless it was potentially a loop around. Was it Cedar?
I'll see that comes back down.
Yeah,
16,
come back
so-
down and come down 16. The only time I'd see us doing that is, I mean, if you look at that spot where on our aquifer protection, you can see that kind of right in the center of that green spot right in the center below Whiten's Res. If we were to locate a source right there, then it would make sense to come down Webster Street, go up Cedar, and down Southwest Main to kind of loop that whole section.
Wasn't that old Summit, wasn't it a potential?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I mean.
that's
That's the
what you're
one
talking
spot
about,
that's
yeah.
out behind that
Mm-hmm.
that has a potential for a water source. So it's one of the things that I think we should probably also prepare for is to start. There's like 3 or 4 locations that are outside of our existing that are potentials for water sources, and we should probably start investigating whether they're viable sources. Do some testing, get some groundwater tests and results, and and if it's not a viable source, then let's take it off the aquifer protection. Not that I don't want to protect land, but if you're just protecting something to protect it, there's nothing there to protect. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
take it off, and
It's an unnecessary.
we'll find other areas to protect that may be viable. So, but I think we should start investigating alternative sources and, with the landfill being upgradient, I always have that concern. We at least alleviated the concern of mobile going right through the middle of everything, so we eliminated that problem. But I can tell you that I believe a town not far from here is just running into issues with their landfill and contamination. So, so I just always, I was stressing about the whole Ppos thing.
And your way, it will.
Yeah, my way. The Ppos was stressing me out for a little while, but those results came back good. So,
No, that's good.
now back to my slight concerns about the transfer station. Just because I've been through the Ppos headache, and I certainly didn't want to have to deal with that here.
Yeah, I was thankful.
Our other towns are making out with that. Not
Brutal.
good.
No, rumor had it that Webster just hit on one of their wells, so they're looking at potential treatment. Dudley, I think their plan is $12.5 million for a treatment plant there. Auburn's borderline. There's a bunch of systems. Anything anywhere near the Air Force bases or military bases or the firefighting academy, Hudson.
All the foams, right?
Yeah, everything up in that area, they're just loaded. Out by the Air Force Base, Westover, they were loaded. But the treatment's not cheap, and it's a huge expense to continually operate. You got the media that you gotta, once it gets expended, you gotta replace it, and that's one, maybe 2 times a year, depending on how bad it is, and that's a couple $100,000 every time you do it. So that's why I was like, sigh of relief when when our numbers were low. But
It's a frustrating. That whole process is frustrating. You think about, because they mandate that you use that stuff,
right,
and then they turn around and say,
you contaminated.
you contaminated.
Yeah.
You made us use it.
Right.
No, not us, but for the
Right.
firefighters that are doing all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue with it was all the training. But
Yeah.
they're required to
They're
train, so
required
they
to
know how to
train.
use it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, just chasing the tail.
it's a vicious circle, is right.
Yeah, and then everybody gets mad at the water departments because we got to put in treatment and you got to pay for it when it wasn't us that contaminated it. We're just trying to, we're the end ones stuck with the issue. Oh, that reminds me, we did just get, I just got the email, I talked to Doug McLean today. They issued the final permit for here. So it goes into effect, I think we have to start the new sampling and everything November 1st, I think it said on there. I gotta read through the whole thing, but it's about that thick, so I'll read through that.
The water withdrawal permit?
No, the wastewater.
Oh, wastewater.
Discharge
Okay.
permit.
I think that wasn't.
The one that's been overdue for like
Yeah.
14 years or so.
10 years, right?
10, 12 years, yeah, something like that.
Well, it's not too bad.
I don't know. I liked operating off the old one.
Yeah, we were lucky on that.
Yeah.
That wasn't our fault. That was their.
Oh yeah, no,
that was all.
we submitted everything we were supposed to.
Yeah, and it was them that dragged their feet, which is
Yeah.
fine.
I think there was a lot of issues going on because the NIPTES permits in Massachusetts are regulated by EPA. There's only 2 states in the country that are regulated through EPA and not the state agency.
Oh, is that right?
So Massachusetts DEP back a few years ago applied to get primacy so that they could oversee it, and they got shot down. EPA said nope, and they wouldn't allow it. So I don't know what happened there, but when these came out, within the last year, EPA came out saying we're issuing permits on our own. We're not issuing joint permits because all the previous permits up until this round were issued jointly in Massachusetts. So EPA and DEP had a joint permit. Some things were federally regulated, some were state. There was, the state would follow suit with the feds and then add a few more little things that they wanted. So EPA issued them this time without the state's input or anything. So I know they were copied and and CC'd on all the correspondences and the permits themselves, but I don't know if they had input like they had in the past. I mean, I don't know if you were in any of the meetings, but you were here when we had EPA and DEP, and we were going
Yeah.
round and round with the permits, and and we did tours of the treatment plant. And
Yeah, it was two
went
girls
through
that
all
were
the
down there,
data.
one from the EPA, one
Yeah.
from the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that.
Yeah, it was Janet Duche and Claire Golden.
mm,
But everything was always done jointly, and then all of a sudden it was, pretty much strictly EPA you were dealing with. So, but they finally issued the permit. They give a aluminum limit this time, which was a better number than I anticipated. I was anticipating a limit of 80 micrograms per liter, and it came back at 146 micrograms per liter. So that puts us pretty close. I think we should be able to meet that permit. It's kind of one of those things that I had been saying over the past few years. One of the steps towards reaching that, the ability, was to get the filter rehab to the 5 micron filters instead of the 10. So we've done that on one filter. I didn't want to do both at the same time because I want to put 10s on the other one. Which, now that we had to help them through that, we know how to do it. We'll just do it ourselves. We'll do the second one, which I'll get to another issue with that one in a minute, but we'll do the second one with the 10, and then we'll have the company that was going to come in and do the pilot study. They're still scheduled. They're just trying to work it out in their schedule to come in and conduct the pilot study. They'll work on the chemistry and dial things in to tell you what chemistry, which chemical instead of the alum to use. I'm guessing it's going to be like a PAC 2400, which is like 3 times as expensive, but you use a quarter of the amount. But it does a much better job of the treatment, keeping your aluminum levels down and getting your phosphorus levels down even more. So he claimed he could get better results with this treatment system and these filters with the 5 micron than you can get out of a membrane filtration plant, which is supposed to be like, basically the equivalent of an RO system. So hopefully he's right and we can hit those numbers. Then we won't have to do any major upgrades. The filters were due to get replaced anyway. Actually, we almost doubled the life out of the filters just through the maintenance, but the manufacturer recommends they get replaced every 7 years or so, and we're 16 years into the plant now. So we pretty much double the life. But when we took the filters down, there's a lot of pitting in the metal, rusting like underneath the water level. So we got to come up with some kind of plan to rehab the inside of those. Either get a company to come in and sandblast them and bring them down to bare metal and get 2-part epoxy coating in there that'll withstand the environment they're in. So that's one of the projects we're working on, is trying to identify a company that can come in and get it to that level of clean on the inside of that tank. Our intent is to operate off the one with the new filters right now, take all the old filters out of the other one, because the other one also, the backwash pipe that goes in and it cleans off the filters every so often. When we took it down, that pipe was rotted through, so the backwash can't be operating correctly right now. At least on half of them. The other one is pretty rotted too. There's 2 on each filter, 2 vacuum pipes. One of them's rotted through, the other one looks like it's in sad shape, but it's weird because that one's rotted through, the other one was fine. So the filter that we replaced everything on was fine and didn't have an issue, but this one was, and they both see the same stuff. I mean,
You wonder sometimes how.
they more or less have been operated in the same manner. We typically run them together. But, no idea. It's one of those things that we're running them all the time. You got to keep them full. So unless you take one offline and drain it down, you're not going to know that. So that's one of the things we're working on down here, is going to rip down that other filter. We'll disassemble it so we can save a ton of money, and instead of having Aqua come in, we'll disassemble it, get it so that you can get in there and have somebody. We'll probably have someone come in and blast it down to bare metal, and have someone come and weld a new pipe in, because unfortunately the pipe isn't like a bulkhead fitting that you can just take it out and replace it. It's welded, a pipe coming through on an angle,
No,
So it's on an angle surface and it's welded, so it's, you know, in a oblong shape.
right.
So we got to figure out how to get that replaced without, you know, during all the process. But you know, it's gonna be fun trying to find someone that's gonna go down in that tank
Mike will.
to weld it. I know. I thought of that.
Mike
Mike
can
could
fix
climb
it.
right down in there.
Mike
Yeah,
can fix it.
he will. It might be my only option. So, and he'll probably come up with a better idea than what's in there currently. So that's on the list of things that we gotta upgrade. I just gotta try to get it to timeout right to get that one up and running correctly with the new 10s, so that we're running 1.5 and 1.10, so we know which one we need. You know, if we can get away with the 10s, we're better off. If we just make some chemistry adjustments in the new 10s, if we can get away with that, you know, overall it'll be a better
So how does that? The,
situation
the
for
higher
us.
the number, the more the filtration, or less,
Lower.
less the filtration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the particles are either a 5 micron particle or a 10 micron
Okay,
particle
alright.
can go through. So you know, we wanna try to get that rehab sooner rather than later, so we can have a good pilot study, you know, real life pilot study, to compare the two to determine how much better treatment we're getting with a 5 than a 10. You know, if it's negligible difference, we'll be better off with the 10s. It's less backwashing, you know, less maintenance, less wear and tear on the equipment. So after we do a pilot study, that's what's going to determine that. But we'll get that one rehabbed, sandblasted down. Once we go through the pilot study and determine which one, we'll make a decision on pulling the filters out of the ones that we just rehabbed and sandblast that one down and get everything recoated so we don't have that issue in there.
Good.
So that's where we stand with those. Oh, yeah.
How about
So I didn't remember why I got on that whole topic. So in the wastewater permit, they also they gave us sampling for Ppos. So now it's not only on the drinking water; they want to test the wastewater. So
Oh, you're kidding me.
so any town that has a PFAS problem in the drinking water is obviously going to have a PFAS
Yeah,
problem at the wastewater plant. They put it in the permit, and they didn't even have an approved method for testing wastewater for PFAS yet. So they put it in the permit saying when we get an approved method, you know, you need to sample. Just and when they originally called me and said, "Oh, we're going to add this, and you're going to have to do monthly PFAS sampling on your influent, your effluent, and your sludge," I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad you called, because this is going to cost a fortune. I have to add it to my budget." And she was like, "What do you mean? You know, how expensive is the test?" I'm like, "It's $600 or $700 a piece. If I've got to do, you know, 3 of them, that's $2,100 a month. You know, over
right?
12 months, it's a significant hit to my budget."
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, well, we didn't realize that." So she says, "I'll pass it on to the higher ups," and they discussed it, and they came back with, I think it's twice a year sampling instead of monthly. So that was helpful, because that was a big hit. If
You think that they would look into
I
the
know.
cost of this before they implement some things?
Yeah.
They didn't even give it a thought.
Yeah.
Well, they probably didn't think it was that expensive, just because the amount of testing that everybody had to do on the water side. So they just probably, "Oh, they're testing the water side. Now we can have them test on the wastewater side."
Yeah.
So anyway, that was.
So under project update, I'm not sure if that would fall under capital update, capital or the project update. How about the generator? How we look at that?
They've been ordered.
Did they give any?
I've
kind
been
of-
trying for weeks to get a hold of him. I finally talked to him today, and he says, "I got to check with the manufacturer and get back to you." So I'm like, you know, we're right in the
Yeah, it's
the
been,
time frame of when you said delivery would be.
Yeah.
And then I requested quotes on the portable generator, which we had on the list for this
That
year.
was-
Um,
that was on for FY 21.
no, the portable was for 22.
Oh no, that was for the other one was for the
Primary was
that
21.
was, yeah.
Both of those have been ordered.
Okay.
It's just waiting for him to come in. And I've been calling him for weeks, because I'm like, "Can you give me a time so
Yeah.
I can start prepping for him? You know, get
We've been-
these out of the way,
Yeah.
we have been very lucky.
It's been, this one here has been, what was that, last November?
It's almost a year.
Yeah, it's almost a year
We're
now,
coming
yeah.
up on a year.
So, I mean, we're rolling the dice with that.
Oh yeah, and we did have a power bump down here,
Yeah.
and everything went haywire.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Peter were both in here trying to get everything up and running again.
What are
So
they
they-
changing down here?
Don't worry.
Mess Electric was down there all day,
Don't worry.
down by the mill.
Oh, I have
I
no
don't know
idea.
what they were doing. I
Putting
seen them
poles
down-
and transformers and.
I seen them down, I went by it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So they didn't give you like a hard date, or they just said?
Supposed to call me back today, and he was supposed to send me a proposal on the portable, but unfortunately, the price of the portables went way up. So I spent half the day going through calculations to see if we can scale down the size of the portable, because the size I wanted originally was around 33, and now he's saying it's around 50.
Oof.
So I'm trying to go through the numbers and see what we can manage with and get by. But there's a lot of calculations and trying to figure that out. 'Cause
So does this have any value after it's taken out? I mean, would that be worth any value to?
I've talked to Mikey about looking at it and seeing if he wants to take a crack at
Rebuilding it?
and he's definitely excited about it. So I figured if I can get it over to mobile, and I'll get him access into there, and he can
Oh,
he
yeah.
can work on it in the
Yeah.
building. I'll make him a trail from his house, because it's right. We got a gate over there, right up on that side. There's a gate. I don't know why they have a gate up there,
Yeah.
but I can get him access to
He
there.
keeps asking me every time I see him at the post office.
About the generator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already talked to him. I told him I wanted him to take a look at it. But if he can get it going, I seen the same generator, and it looks like it went through World War II, and they were trying to get like 33,000 on eBay. So if I can get Mikey to get this one running,
Mhm.
we'll put it up on eBay or whatever.
Yeah.
Put it up on auction and
Try to get some.
see what we can
And
get
that's what,
back.
twice the size of what we need?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so if we can do that and get, a significant amount of it back, mostly pay for this one.
So what was the total? Did you get a total number on what that replacement cost was going to be for that one?
This one, if I replaced that one exactly, it was
No, I mean the
98.
one that's
The
ordered.
one that we went with was right around 50. So
Okay.
it's 49 or something like that. 48, 49. Yeah, and then we just have to, we got to hire a crane or something to lift this one out. And I've talked to GBI about coming down, and depending on the weight, I think he can almost do it with one of his lulls. 'Cause I think he said he had a 15,000-pound lull. And that'll be a lot cheaper than hiring him to bring a crane over. So
Mhm.
if he can come down and just lift it off,
Mm.
that would be much better. So
Mhm.
then we got to set the new one and get it all hooked up. So, but yeah, I've been calling multiple times a week, and the guy just has not answered. I called his office, I called the operator at the office, and had him transfer me, and he just never answers. And I finally caught him today, and he just said, "Oh, I got to call the manufacturer and see what
It's
they
a
say."
legit company, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Craft Power, they're a big company.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a backwoods. It's
Yeah. Okay.
they're on the state bid list.
Oh,
that,
okay, alright.
the approved
No,
ones.
sometimes that don't mean anything.
Yeah, but there's only a few companies that are
Yeah.
actually on the list that are approved through
Yeah.
the Combi's purchasing. And they're one of them, so.
It's like
Hopefully-
on a state bid list for the trucks, we wound up buying a truck for how many thousands less?
Yeah.
I know. I thought that was the last one was you couldn't beat the state bid though. Didn't we get that?
No,
this
the
one,
one you
this
just
one I
bought.
got through place.
Yeah, it was through the state bid, wasn't it?
No,
Oh,
No,
was it?
no,
bought
Oh,
that
okay.
direct from,
It was cheaper going
direct
that way.
from place. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All
it was
right.
cheaper than the state,
yeah. It was actually
was it 4,000 or 5,000?
it was a few thousand less and a year newer.
Yeah.
Goes to show you. Get a shot.
Well, it's the same issue with the alum that we get here.
Mm-hmm.
On the state bid list, the price was like 30% higher than what we were paying. So I didn't go through the state bid list. I kept with the contract we had. I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah, why are you gonna go to the state
why am I
bid
going to
list?
go to the state bid list and charge me more money?
Yeah.
But,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, watch out for those politicians. Alright, we all set on the project updates, pretty much?
I believe so. That's all the ones that I know of that are hanging out there.
Yeah, I don't know of anything else that I'm aware of. Biggest thing to me was just the generator. Coming at the window.
Trust me, it's been the biggest one for me for a year because it stresses me every storm that comes through.
Actually, I think of you every time I put the weather on when they're talking about the tropical.
I know.
I'm
Every
like,
one of those, I'm like,
I said, oh, I guess Bob's probably going, oh boy.
every time. Yeah. I know, I'm watching the pass. And they've got, when you watch like Fox, they've got, the European model and this model, and it just looks like spaghetti thrown on the wall.
I know
I'm like, all right, I don't want that one, I don't want that one, I don't want that one. Any of these are fine. But we were always right in the middle of how all the spaghetti strings went.
We lucked out so far this year.
Yeah.
Not Overwood, but
No, I was gonna say
pretty close.
I did have a backup plan here anyway.
Yeah, I knew I talked about that before. I said you have some sort of a backup. You said, oh yeah, okay, it's gonna be a pain, but it can get done.
Yeah, I have knowledge of a pretty much the same exact thing, a 600 volt 400 kW generator that's on a trailer. And already had conversations that they'd come over and hook it up. So
That's good.
So I haven't been stressing as much, but it's still stressful because it's still going to take a significant amount of time to get that to happen.
Right, that's what you
All right, so what's next?
Review job descriptions for approval. Basically, I had asked Bob if he put that on the agenda. Actually, the next couple of ones, I think that
What's that?
just for review job descriptions.
Yeah.
Primarily the one for the assistant chief, and for the
Yeah, so
Now, these are the new ones you wrote up?
yeah, so
It's
what I did is I did the assistant chief. I put assistant chief operator / maintenance technician, just because we need someone mechanically aptitude down here to work under that. And I did the water operator. So I didn't want to put a ton of work into getting them all finalized until we kind of approved the format and everything.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And then I wanted,
Did you have
right, and I wanted we've kind of changed what the third position is several times, so I just want to be clear as to what you guys envision the third position, the split position to be. And
So I guess what we need, one of the things was the two primary things that I was concerned on was one, the assistant to Peter, the assistant chief operator,
that's here.
and then a laborer's position that can kind of,
Right, so the laborer's position,
those are the two, because always, you need another set of hands, somebody always.
Well,
I
that's
do,
the third
definitely.
position we wanted.
Right, so the,
right, so that's the third position, so.
well, the water operator, I think, was a.
Well, it's the third one that you want to fill, but
Yes.
the two more required positions are the wastewater and the
Yes.
water operator.
Yes.
The third position being
Mhm.
split with I just wanted to be clear on the direction and intent of the position because it's changed a few times from part-time to full-time from, just variations of what it was intended for. So I just wanted to get clarification as to the intent of the position. In my opinion, I thought the intent was we bring them in to kind of replace Willie at a little higher level, as in we gear them towards getting their licenses and would be able to move into a position if one were to open. That was
Yeah,
kind of what I thought the intent was. I
would still say my position would be a full-time, not a part-time.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's to
Yeah,
replace
yeah.
Willie, and that's why I mean that it changed a few times. Originally, it was the Willie's position, and then it got changed to full-time position.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear as to Willie's position had never had any intention of moving into an operator role.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
So I just want to be clear on that before I go write it all up and then have you guys say this isn't what we wanted. We
Yeah.
wanted, just a laborer or whatever. So it's laborer, and I'll word it so that it's geared,
With opportunities or.
opportunity for
opportunity,
advancement.
Right.
Preferably work towards operator license,
Yeah.
both water, wastewater. So I'll write something up like that. I just wanted to be clear before I went and put all this effort into it,
Or
because I've got 400 projects going on at once. So
so my, as far as the the description of that. I'm not sure if we, as a requirement, because somebody just might not want, somebody might just want to be just a laborer,
Just a
not,
Right.
not
laborer,
want
yeah.
the responsibility of that, so.
Right, so, and that's
If I
kind of
would-
what I wanted was, do we say must be able to obtain,
Yeah,
you know, either
would
one
say-
or both or whatever within, I mean, we would be a little more lenient with that position as to the time frame. You know, typically you're saying 6 months to a year to get a license,
yeah.
whereas this one you can allot more time
A
and
year and a half, two.
I'm not,
That's too
I'm
much.
not so tied down on the time frame
Is that for labor or for water operator?
for the
assistant?
laborer.
Okay,
So for the laborer, I'm not so tied to the time frame on the requiring the license. I would say that I would still want to put it in there that we're going to require you to work towards getting a license. But I'm not going to put the typical must obtain within 6 months to a year,
yeah,
because like you said, and being the general laborer with that position, being, you know, cutting grass and miscellaneous stuff in
Yeah,
between,
yeah,
they're not getting as much hands-on experience day to day.
yeah.
So you got to kind of give them a little more leeway because they won't have the hours.
Yeah, I'm trying to think maybe if it was worded where the there's room for advancement if they take the initiative to do that. You know,
Right, but-
as far as instead of a mandate saying they have to do that.
But that's why I'm saying I don't care if we extend the mandate longer.
Yeah,
I get concerned about the intent of the position. Moving it to full time was more to teach them on
yeah,
both disciplines and get them licensed with the opportunity to move in. But if you don't put some kind of requirement saying, you know, must be able to obtain, I don't care if it's 5 years,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But they need to work towards it.
yeah. They should be working towards it,
And
and then plus I think
Well, it's foolish for them not to.
right.
and if we're going to pay for it, it's crazy for them not to take advantage of that. But
Yeah,
you know, so I hate to put it where it's not part of the requirement. Like I said, I don't mind extending the requirement out further, but have them work towards it. And
yeah. No, that's been.
Well, it should be part of the requirement, but not.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's
And then if they do get that, then it could be part of the on call.
now that was my other point is you could break up the on call more,
Yeah.
and not that I'm trying to take money from people, but they would also be on the lower scale, so it would save the department money on that on call rotation weekend. It would save a little bit as to not paying the chief operator or the primary operator
Oh, it makes
their
sense.
level on the
Yeah, it
on
makes
call.
sense.
So I just think that it.
So was this the format that Matt had wanted? And the reason I just wanted because I wanted to get the discussion rolling because
Yeah, well, it's not just to get discussion rolling. I want to get it moving.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Altogether,
I
period.
wanted to get it on the agenda to get
Right, so
just to get it.
That's why I put more time into these two, because that other, well, I guess the other position's kind of there, but
Yeah.
it's different than what's there. But anyway,
Which position?
the one that
oh,
we were just
labor?
talking about, the
Yeah,
labor.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, we can still. I mean, I have the.
I can have the laborer one done probably in a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I have the ones that.
This
the
is what we
personnel
want to run
board.
through Matt for the.
Well, Matt's gonna. He's the one that's gonna approve them anyway. I think our job is to just to get them to him. Say this is what we're looking at. Here's all
Right,
the
I need-
information.
I need you guys to agree
On this is what we're doing.
with these, the content. I mean, the format is kind of out of our hands a little bit.
Yeah.
This is more or less the format he had. It's a little different than I typically did. The ones that you have are
This is
probably ones that
something
I
Matt came
started
up
on.
with, part of it.
These are the ones that.
Just kind of the
these are the ones that
format.
the personnel give me. Believe it or not, that was 2 years this November since when we started.
Yeah, but those I will almost guarantee are the ones that when I first came
Yeah.
here, I wrote those.
2010. Some of them 2010. Some
Right.
have changed, but this is what the personnel board had anyway. So
They had, but
I don't know what.
I can tell you that I brought those to them and I started going through the process.
Yeah.
But their process was basically ridiculous. And they had a point spreadsheet that they just went through and didn't put any regard into the level of skill and knowledge and limited amount of people in this industry.
Yeah.
So they just went through and said, oh, do they supervise people? I'm like, well, no, that position doesn't. Oh, no points. Oh, do they have to drive a car? You get 3 points, you know.
So they went by the point system.
It was a little
Yeah.
point system which did not reflect the level of responsibility. You know, they didn't care that
Right.
these people go to jail if you screw up and overdose a chemical or pollute the river. It
Right.
wasn't on their chart, so they didn't get to add that points. So I ended up not finalizing the process with them. So those were never really completed. But I came in 2009, and that was one of the first things I worked on was
So they were probably updated to this though, from what they had or what they
no,
had.
none of this ever got approved. I went to one meeting with them.
So what did they? So what did they?
We started going through, and they never did their point scale or any. Because when we started going through it, I'm like, that doesn't work for the
Yeah.
justification on these. You can't base the salaries of these positions on a chart that doesn't include any of the actual part that make this job a high risk or, you know.
So I wonder what they had previous to this then. If they just took what this is and then said, okay, we'll update
Right.
these to these.
As far as I know, they didn't have anything. Because according to Matt, he has nothing. The way it's worded, it says the job descriptions that are applicable are the ones on file with the town administrator.
Yeah.
And he opened his file because I asked him for him. He opened it and said empty. Empty. Every single position was empty.
So they would then there was never any job
As
descriptions
far as I know, there's no job descriptions on record.
except for what the
Which was
person-
my
except
issue,
for
because
what
I
the person
asked for the
was.
job descriptions when I first came, and that's why I took the initiative to start doing this originally.
Yeah.
Because just going through, you know, getting my business degree and stuff, I know that to reprimand someone, you can't reprimand someone if you don't have a job description
'cause you got
to go
nothing.
back on.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I have another folder. I'm gonna have to dig into my archives and see how. Because remember when this plant came on,
This plant
They
came
re-
online. There is
they
some.
redid the
in-
job description. I thought that was the ones at that point. I thought those get forwarded up.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever made it up there. I did have those, and I took a
'Cause we
lot
paid,
of.
we paid.
I took a lot of this from there because I know
FST.
that you paid to have
FST
Beta,
yeah,
right?
They
Yeah.
they created because we paid them to.
those beta. Not
I mean
FST.
beta, yes.
Beta rather, yes, you're right, it was beta.
So I
Like-
took a lot of this stuff out of betas, but even betas didn't have everything we needed in it. So
Yeah.
I changed it around. I
And
kind
that
of
was
blended mats and
Did they-
betas.
So
And
nothing was ever approved at town meeting or anything then?
well. These wouldn't be approved town meeting. The compensation plan and that would be approved town.
Oh,
meeting,
okay.
And what level they're at. And all
Right.
that stuff. But so would Beta have done the water as well?
No.
Just the waste.
No, I think they just did the wastewater.
I know we did the
when
plant. They said they had to
done.
update.
Yeah.
They were going to update all the.
right. So they did it for the plant,
Yeah.
and I haven't gone through and rewritten the chief operator position yet, just because it's filled and it's not one of the priorities right now. But my intention over the next couple weeks is to get that position done and the primary operator done, along with these two and the laborer position that you guys want. Because I want to get them all done and have Matt go through them and add them to whatever compensation update plans or
Yeah.
whatever he's doing. I'd like to get all the positions done at once so they're all on record in the file, and that's what we go by.
And then
So
it would be nice to get
Mm.
an extra set coming into winter, you know, snow removal and all the other stuff. Yeah. I'm sure.
Does this have to be done for the town, this don't have to be done
No,
for the
this
town
is
meeting?
not for this fall
is
town
just-
meeting. My estimate is Matt probably wants it for a springtown meeting
For all
to
the-
work on up, because he's meeting with each individual employee
Mhm.
and going through their,
Mhm.
you know, their feelings of what they do and all that stuff. So I believe his intent is to update the compensation plan and get it all in line with what it should be.
So I'm assuming he's gonna meet with you, and then you're gonna go over give them the description, and he'll meet with the employee to make sure it's consistent. I mean, the
Yeah.
employee could sing your song all day long, and
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Well, I think he's meeting with all of them first.
yeah,
And then he'll probably meet with me after and say, well, this is what their understanding is, and compare it to what my understanding is,
yeah.
and we'll go from there.
Not that I'm not saying our guys don't, but I'm saying employees in general.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
it should come. I suppose it's always good to talk to them, but also to talk to
Yeah.
the boss.
Well, it's good to talk to them, see how it operates and.
Yeah, get their
Yeah, feel
opinion
everything.
Yeah.
and
And then speak with the department head and say it's just Do you agree, disagree, or
Mm-hmm.
changes, add, delete?
So, I don't know if you guys want to read through these tonight. I know you like the stuff in advance, but
Yeah,
I
I was gonna
wasn't.
say.
I wasn't finalizing all this before when you needed it. So
Yeah. No, I just wanted to.
it was thrown on the agenda
idea
kind of
was-
last minute. So
Yeah, well,
so I didn't have time to get the finalized Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah. But that was in the middle of we were spending all day working on the filter and several other things that were going on. But
well, primarily was just to get it on the agenda and get it rolling.
yep. So.
And then,
So here's two. I will, after the discussion we just had,
can you email these to me?
I was gonna say, I'm gonna email all of them to
Yeah.
you, to all of you. I'll
Yeah.
email all of them. These two, I'll email these two probably tomorrow. I'll work on the other ones over the next week or so and try to email them all to you at once, or all the other ones to you outside of this.
Mhm.
But I'll get these two and I'll get that up, the laborer position one that you wanted in this format, sent off to you. You guys mark them up. And if you want to
I'd like to get the
labor one,
labor and
right?
the
Assistant,
assistant chief to get to advertise. This one's going to be a hard one to.
the
fill.
assistant chief.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one's going to take some time. And the laborer may take some time too, based on
they all may take time.
based
Based
on what the. I can tell you how everybody I talked to as far as
I
finding.
I do have someone that's interested in the laborer position, so that might not be as hard, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it's dependent on pay and
Yeah, gotta see. They're not going to take a pay cut.
no, and it sounds like they want to advance, so it'd be a good fit to move towards that type position. But in the way that we're kind of wanting to design it. So, based on the conversation we had tonight, I'll put together the laborer position. And like I said, I did the assistant chief and the water operator. So, I don't know what your feelings are on posting them, but my opinion is post all three, and obviously we want this one first. But if it's the hardest one to fill,
Yeah.
and they fill in whatever order, but if they're all out there, then at least we have the option to, because I'd hate to not have this one out and have 15 operators looking for a position.
Yeah.
And you're waiting on this one, it takes
And then-
6
Right,
months,
yeah.
and then you put this out, and all those people took positions.
And these were all fully funded in the budget, the 3 positions,
Fully funded
at the scale that
Right.
was allowed by the
Right.
personnel board, by the pay scale.
but the last discussions were dropped down. I had put it on the higher end, and through meetings that we had, it got moved to the lower end,
For,
the pay scale. Like I budgeted originally, I had put in for the higher scale of the budget, just because I think you can have a real hard time filling these positions at the low end of the scale.
yeah,
But because the position has the scale, you guys moved it to the lower end of the scale as opposed to the higher end of the scale. So I don't have as much
I don't
to.
recall that. I think my last discussion on some of that was I agreed that the pays on some of the positions were somewhere in the middle. We were pretty consistent with other
Yeah.
towns, but some were on the lower side. So I think.
I thought most of them were on the lower side though.
I think, no, what we budgeted for, I think was in the middle.
Oh, a budget,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the budget.
I mean, I can double check,
yeah.
but we are a portion of the way through the year, so
Yeah.
so theoretically there should be plenty to budget, to fill whichever end of the scale we need to be at.
Yeah.
I mean, the requirements of the posting according to the bylaws and everything
Yeah.
are, I have to post it with the full scale, and it goes from this range to this range,
Mhm.
and we can put, based on experience or whatever,
Yeah.
in the ad.
Now,
So
on
that
the
at least
pay
gives us
scale,
some
we
negotiation.
gotta kinda like get that up.
It's not up to us.
No, I know.
Personnel board.
That's the personnel board, which is part of the process of going through, getting these
Yeah.
job descriptions dialed in.
Get reevaluated and get everything.
Right, so,
Has to go hand in hand.
Because we're
Right.
way under most departments. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
most
mean,
towns.
I've looked at, depending, and I can't,
Well-
the swing in some towns is, if you look,
crazy,
I've
yeah.
gone across and looked at all different towns on, like for a water operator and a sewer operator.
Mm-hmm.
And,
They swing quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, there's huge swings, and I don't know what the difference is and why. I mean, some were union,
yeah.
so those ones were
Oh.
obviously, the union ones were higher.
Well, I've got copies of several union contracts.
Yeah.
And, they'll scare you guys if you look at them and
Yeah, I'm sure.
and see what you're going up against because it's not only the salary portion of it. They're telling you it's this many dollars an hour, but when you start reading through it and you're on call, they give you some of them were given $400 to $600 a week to be on call,
Wow.
plus whatever you get called in for. It's just a ridiculous amount of. And there was
That's
in one of the groups that I belong to, there was a whole chat thing going on around about it, based on someone's like, oh, I gotta reevaluate this. What are people given for on call? And there was a whole chat discussion going on, and it was some of them are, oh, you get a flat $200, some of them are $50 a day, and the 200 is whether you get a call or not. If you get called, you get 4 hours. You get this, you get that. It's just it's crazy the amount of. And when you start comparing, you're trying to pull from that to what we have, and especially the union ones. They're going to go through and they're going to definitely dial in on all those key features. Because I know one union operator that made more money than I did last year. That's just an operator.
Yeah. Some of it's great, but there's some you go even which I thought would be higher if you go heading out towards heading
Towards Boston.
towards Boston way, which I thought would be substantially higher, and they really weren't that much
Well,
higher on some of them, right? Depending on what you looked at, and maybe
but it depends on what position you're looking at too, because they're calling them different things.
you have to look at the
But
the
like,
job description and all that.
I mean, I've got the ads for a few of them that there was one in Chelmsford area, I think. Chelmsford, I think they keep listing it. It's like 105 to start with a differential pay and added bonuses if you have whatever licenses, and that's entry level. That's not primary or assistant or that's entry level operator.
Problem is,
Just
is nobody going in.
insanity.
There's limited amount of people going into that field.
Yeah.
The demand is getting higher and higher. So
it's
obviously
hard to believe that nobody wants to get into this.
But every trade is.
Yeah,
Having the
the
same
same plumbing, electrical. Nobody wants to get into it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
They said
ridiculous.
they did a study on. They said the average age of a person in the construction industry, or the field plumbers, carpenters, electricians, in general, is in the 50s, mid 50s.
Yeah.
Really?
Which it used to be always around in the mid 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not a good number.
No.
But
So,
all right,
I mean, like New Hampshire, I think New Hampshire just came out with a thing saying that it was like 40% of all their primary operator and up, like my level and stuff, they're all going to be gone in the next couple of years. So all those positions are going to be
40% of
open.
them.
Yeah.
yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. I just don't.
Well, a lot of the superintendents that I talk to on a fairly frequent basis, they're all like, I've had enough of all the new regulations. When the Ppos came out, everybody's stressing over it. And, it's just the level of knowledge
that
and
would be part of
requirements
it,
that
yeah.
are, I mean, I've studied all the Ppos stuff and it's quite involved. It's not a simple thing. And, a lot of anyone over my age,
They want to get them. They don't want to start.
well, they're all the old timer, good old boy network. You kind of just did things your own way and didn't follow the rules per se, and they just I know better than them.
Yeah, it works best for you.
But now it's coming down. It's like, no, you're going to do this, and this is the way you have to do it. And they're like, oh, this is crazy. And you see how much money you have to spend on engineers and design and oversight, and they're all just getting fed
Well,
up.
that's
They're like,
I mean, there's a lot of inspectors that are getting fed up with everything, and they're not going to renew their license in next cycle.
I don't know. I mean, when you start looking at these and getting involved in it, I got pretty in depth with the Ppos stuff to understand it, but you almost need a PhD in chemistry to
Try to figure it out.
to be able to do some of this
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And the Ppos that they got right now is just 6, but they've got like another 30 or 40 that they're doing. They got a UCMR, it's unregulated contaminant, and they target various communities throughout, and they pick a certain amount of communities and they have them do unregulated samples, and then they test it and they see where everybody falls. Well, that's where the PFAS came from. When they did one of those and a bunch of towns hit for it, And that's when they started pushing to get it regulated. Well, they've got like another 30, 40 PFAS contaminants because there's one place says there's 4,700 different compounds of PFAS where they're only regulating 6. Another one said like 8,900 or something like that. So they picked another 30 or 40 that they're investigating right now, and my guess is that they're going to add to the list. So now you add more to it, and sooner or later they'll catch everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll be right on that cusp, and they add 6 more, and all of a sudden now it puts you over. So, you know, what I think is they targeted the 6, and they saw, oh, we'll catch this many in this round. You can't put out all of them they want to get you on and hit every community, because I can tell you firsthand that they're having trouble getting the tanks, the media, you know, the engineers to design and the contractors to install. If every system had to do it all at once, you just can't meet that demand. So they target them methodically and pick the highest polluted ones and work your way down. So I think at some point in the future, you know, even us will get hit with it, where they add so many that you're gonna fall into the treatment. But.
So so job description. When are you thinking you'll have the laborers one drafted up? I guess for a time
before the end of the week.
Okay, so we get that, and then so we can have it for just do a timeline for when are we looking to have somebody, if there's anybody that, if we can get somebody qualified for the jobs.
We want to get somebody soon.
Right. So
Well,
as we get,
we just need a timeline.
So the issue is we've got to approve them through you guys. So
then send them up.
If you guys look at these,
send them up to Matt.
make your comments.
Yep.
Get your comments back to me if you want to add, subtract, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got to go to Matt with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Matt's got to go through them all,
Right.
give his blessing. Then it's got to go to town council, get their blessing. Then it comes back through Matt, and we can post it. So it's we got to go through all those steps.
Yeah.
And then post it internally for 2 weeks, and then post it externally.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could probably, because I think the way it's listed in the compensation scale, I mean, the labor's position's already in there. So if it was something that was,
But the problem is I can't post it without the job description,
Yeah.
because it says I have to have the job description
yeah,
with the pay scale. So that's the other thing we've got to look at is, for that position, what's the pay scale? So am I going by whatever it claims as a laborer? Because I'd have to.
Well, how do you figure out what the pay scale is?
Well, we got to
Well,
grab
that's-
the compensation
yeah,
chart.
I don't have one.
Yeah,
I did have-
it's
did
up
have-
there, but I can't get it.
But the, I guess maybe,
We have to go by what our compensation
then why not,
is.
then why not simplify
has to
the
go
labor,
by
then
minutes.
the laborer's position to go by what was in the current pay scale, then we can always update the job description to go for the town meeting. So that way there it's consistent with what's already approved.
Well, it
with
wouldn't be
with
with fall town meeting.
Well, no,
No.
It would be with spring town meeting, but if we
yeah.
go with that, you
I
know,
mean,
that's-
I think it's a pretty easy position.
yeah.
I mean, he's got a laborer's job description. I think that falls under the same, does it say highway laborer and highway laborer or what is it?
I believe it does.
You'd be in the
Yeah,
same
'cause they have
compensation
different-
bracket.
Does have
as ours.
specifications. Yeah.
So I guess so a timeline, so we would look at, for the position, so currently the funding, because I don't think it's gonna be, I don't wanna wait till Springtown meeting to hire somebody.
No, me either.
So I think we'd have to go with the compensation plan that's currently in place,
Right.
and then just get the job description approved. I think that would be the most simplest way. And then it could be, then the compensation plan and description can always be, it's a working document, so that can be
Right.
changed at any point. So we need, ideally, do we want to advertise, the month of December, if it can be, if we should have that back before
I
then.
want to advertise
Yeah.
as soon as I'm allowed to advertise, so.
So should we shoot for December's meeting to review applications?
Mm-hmm.
My problem with that is it's out of my control as
Well,
to how
once-
long
yeah.
Matt takes to approve
Yeah.
and town
Right,
council
That
takes
shouldn't
to
be,
approve.
that shouldn't be.
It shouldn't take long, but like I said, it's not under my control.
Well, just when we talk to Matt, I would give him a buzz. If you see him, just talk to say
Yeah,
we're
I'll
looking,
talk to him.
we're looking to try to get, for December to try to review or at least advertise.
Mm-hmm. And if we get to him, he might, he's pretty busy, but
I mean, it's 2 months. I mean, it's not gonna.
2 months, yeah.
So I'm
But
not sure.
then it has to be approved by the attorney too then.
Yeah,
Well,
And
that could take time.
that
That's pretty quick. Though.
it should be quick.
That should be quick.
Depends on who you're dealing with.
Yeah, Brian's a labor attorney.
Right, so he's pretty quick. He's
He's good.
usually on top
Yeah.
of things. So I've got water operator and chief operator. Those positions are filled. And I've got assistant water sewer operator. So I don't know if that's what you want to list it as, the labor, or
Yeah, it was the assistants. I think that's what Ray's position was.
that's essentially this position.
Yeah.
The only thing different is that
Because it was never
assistant
rewritten
chief.
correctly.
Yeah.
Right, it was never
Assistant
rewritten
chief.
correctly when we changed to the new plan. That was the original position that was kind of split between the two. But when you came on with the new plant, the legal requirement is 2 full-time operators here.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a split position.
Mhm.
It's just my operation that I require everyone to be cross-trained so that they can do water operations and wastewater operations. But there's a truck driver / laborer. I'm not sure if that's what you were referring to as the
No,
laborer
I think
position.
It was just a labor. I think it was just a laborer's position.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know if
The labor / truck driver, I think that's one position, I think, isn't it?
That was highway.
it is. That's the
That was
highway.
just highway.
That's the highway position. But
Did we have a
So
separate
here's-
one?
Actually, what was the? I remember looking at it. I was thinking.
yeah, so I know you had said that it was listed on there. I wasn't clear as to what the actual position was.
So it must have been.
So if you just go up and down, it'll get you to the
so-
other
so I'm
charts.
looking to see.
We're looking to fill the assistant chief operator first, right?
That would be the desire.
Yeah. And that's what Ray had,
That was essentially Ray's position.
Ray position, yeah.
It's just that it was never written correctly in the
Mhm.
compensation schedule or the job description,
Right.
essentially.
So I would think it would be the truck driver / laborer. So it would be. And then because they had a highway laborer operator. This is PM2, and you had the assistant water sewer operator. So I think the PM1 would be cover the laborer's position.
All right, I just wanted to be clear because I just don't know how we're justifying it as a truck driver. We don't
Well, it's not a truck driver. I think that's
Right.
covers
Says truck
two.
driver
truck
slash
slash
laborer.
labor, right? So it depends on how you read into that. But.
Yeah. Water operator, chief operator, highway mechanic, highway laborer operator, assistants, water slash.
That's the one you're gonna write now. This one here.
Yeah, like I said, I just needed clarification, and if we can tie it to something in the compensation plan, because if I can't tie it to the compensation plan, that drags it out longer.
Mm-hmm.
What was Willie listed under? Part-time, he was part-time labor, I think that was just,
I'd have to look back.
some of these in here,
Don't even
they don't exist.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, that's never been updated.
And actually, I think some of them, the pay scales aren't even in what's on this. I mean, the classifications, I think it was, is
Yeah.
what they were at.
Willie's I had tied to something. I don't remember.
No, I mean, I'm not sure, I'm
Look
not
at
saying our department in general,
Oh.
I'm just thinking, I remember looking at some, because it was listed as what the personnel board had given me, and then I looked it up and it was a different classification, what they had as, PM4 or whatever
it. Yeah.
however that was listed. At the time, 'cause I remember looking at it, and I wrote next to it the ones that, what it actually was, what the. So I knew it wasn't updated. Yeah, I think the closest one to that would just be the truck driver / or laborer.
All right. So do we want, I mean, I can draw up the job description with the title, truck driver / laborer.
Right, and then under the requirements, the ability to obtain a CDL, which would be, then they could be used for, if highway needed to drive a, well, actually with truck driver.
But they have to have a
you can drive
CDL.
1 ton, you could drive 1 ton, that's still a truck driver, you still.
Yeah, we don't need a CDL.
It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, I know it. It's
Well, I'm saying if you tie it to that position.
because if you
there's
tie
any-
it to that position,
if there's any, I mean.
truck driver needs a CDL. But we're not gonna require a CDL down here. I mean, we don't have anything,
No, I'm thinking if they wanted to work snow plowing.
Yeah, but then you gotta make the decision as to
yeah, but they,
whether or not we give him up to snow plowing during regular
Right.
work hours or,
But,
yeah,
just
we don't wanna
open.
do that, I mean,
because
No,
we
it-
already offer
yeah.
it to the people that have truck driver licenses if they wanna plow after hours.
Yeah, it would be something like that, right? So I guess it would be.
because they don't
if you
need
wanna
a
tie it.
CDL to use our trucks for plowing. No, the only thing we plow is our
No,
own
but-
stuff anyway, so.
And you
But-
don't need them for the 1 tons.
No, but theoretically, if we were working a water main break or a water line installation, if John couldn't free up any of his people and we could borrow one of his dump trucks, then we would need someone with a CDL. I mean, Steve has his Class A CDL with triples, doubles, whatever. He's got every endorsement you can think of. So we we're covered on that end. I'm just saying that theoretically, I can almost justify it, saying that if we're working on either a water main break or a service line or something like that, and we need someone that can drive a truck because none of the highway operators are available.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could tie it to that.
I would say have the ability. I mean, it's not that difficult. I mean, you're not getting a Class A; it's a Class B. I think,
Right,
which
Class
is-
B.
Which is I don't think too difficult to
It's
get.
not hard to get the CDL.
Not with the Class B one. I think
No.
you're not doing the
No, and
Class A. You're not doing that.
I mean, none of the trucks here are sticks, so you'd be doing the Class A on an automatic.
Right, yeah.
You'd probably try to use one of Highway's newer trucks and go through the course to get it if it's the ability to obtain it, not requiring it to have it come in. But
Yeah, I would say the ability to obtain it. Just I think it's probably an asset to have,
Yeah.
and it ties it to that particular description as well. In case there's any questions on the.
how I'm justifying that position is that, yeah.
But it's gonna be part of the requirement that we have to have.
And then time
The
frame.
ability, yeah. would
Like I
say
said,
the
I'm
ability.
not stuck to a short time frame on the water and wastewater licenses, as long as they're working towards them. So I don't know what you want to have as the ability to obtain within on the CDL.
Or would you say preferred instead of having a requirement?
My problem is listing it as truck driver / labor, and you're not
Yeah,
required
I
to get
know.
a truck driver license.
Yeah, they should.
It has to go under that.
Yeah, I would
There's
just put
no
in
other
say
category.
the ability to obtain a Class B. What do you think on that, Bob? Think it's a good idea or no?
You'd probably never use it, but
May not, but you know, a lot of the highway guys are getting older, and you know, may run into a point where we need to assist with plowing or something. You know, it'd be nice to have the ability.
I mean, it's something that's easily attainable. CDL, I don't.
Let's look into the requirements and then, before we finalize anything and see.
Theoretically, I think a Class B, you go get your permit. It's a written test, and you go for a road test.
Just driving test.
As far as I know, there's no
Just go for a road
there's
test.
no training or
What about like air
requirements.
brakes and all the other
Air brakes
endorsements?
is an endorsement you take a test for, I believe. I mean, the air brake should probably have, because all those trucks have air brakes, so they get that endorsement because it has it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truck they'd be tested on, so you would get it endorsed with the air brakes as it is. The tricky ones get into if you start pulling a trailer, which highway doesn't have anyway.
Yeah, and you can still pull. I think what's a Class B at the
26,000.
No, 26,000.
What is it? Different glasses on
two.
Up to it's up to 26,000. So 26,001
Required.
triggers a Class A.
Oh, so it's a Class A and a Class B
Yeah,
on
Class-
a CDL.
Right.
Oh, I
So
see.
Like the town trucks or Class B.
well, they're Class B, but if you pull a trailer and your combined truck and trailer weight is 26,001 or greater, then you trigger an A. So I don't see us or anyone around here pulling
Yeah.
a trailer
No.
and having you up to that.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
a Class B
let's take
truck
a
pulling
stab
a
at that.
trailer that gets you over that weight limit classifies you as a Class
Let's
A.
put it in there then at that.
And you have a time frame on obtaining. Like I said, I'm figuring 3 to 5 years on the water and wastewater licenses.
Yeah, that's
The
something.
Class B, I don't know if you want to extend it that long or if you want to make that a little quicker.
I would say 3 years is probably more than enough on that one.
But for the CDL,
Yeah.
a year.
I said
He's
give it-
saying 3,
I said
so
give it
1 to 3 years.
1
Yeah.
to 3 hours. Yeah, that sounds okay.
So I'll do 1 to 3 years on the Class B and 3 to 5 years on the water and wastewater license.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on the wastewater license, it doesn't have to be to the grade of the plant, because on wastewater they go by how much portion of the treatment plant you're going to operate. So if you're only writing down the numbers, you're not doing lab work, you're not doing the physical.
On the water.
Yeah, no, the wastewater.
Oh,
The
wastewater.
water, they don't care if you go in and do one thing. You need the grade of the system.
Maybe for the requirements on this one, instead of maybe water or, so one or the other, wastewater.
The
So
problem
instead
with
of-
not getting both, that pulls them out of the on-call rotation. Like I said, you can have like a grade 1
Mm-hmm.
wastewater license
And still,
and still come in and do what we have to do on the weekend.
and what's the level of that, the ability to obtain that?
That you just go take a test. You don't actually have to go to a class or anything. If you can pass the test, you can get it.
Not
It's
really.
it's a minimal classes you could go to and obtain a 1.
And that's all we would need for a weekend.
Theoretically, yeah, just to cover the weekends.
Because we don't want to, I'm just trying to think.
And it would just be a matter of that person would be directed that if there's something that looks out of whack, they need to call one of us. But, you know, I mean, we got computer systems, so it calls us anyway if something's out of whack.
I guess I'm trying to think how, because we still got to do the job description, so
Right.
how is that tying that into the compensation scale? If we start adding all that other stuff. I think it would be better off, instead of saying a requirement on that, it would just be that there's a room for advancement within the wastewater and water until the job description gets, or the compensation plan.
All right, I'll come up with some kind of wording that says we would prefer to you to get it, but, you know,
Yeah.
I won't list it as a required.
Okay.
Or with the,
You make it required that they get the one.
no, I can't
No,
if we're gonna
Could
tie
be
it to that
the-
title.
But yeah,
You know,
the
that
existing would have to be changed to,
if we put this kind of language in there, we'd
Yeah.
have to go to that water/sewer operator
Oh, I see, yeah.
yeah.
position, or assistant, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever that title was.
So I think just leave it at
Assistant
that.
water sewer operator. Yeah, so this would be tied to that,
Yeah,
that title.
yeah.
So I'll come up with some kind of wording that
Yeah.
says, you know, if you were to obtain the water and wastewater license, there's room for advancement or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So the timeline, so we're looking, we still want to try to shoot for, I mean, obviously as soon as possible, but try to have something for,
December.
so advertise, if we can possibly try to
Oh.
advertise in November and then say like December's meeting, hopefully have applications.
That would be nice, but like I said,
Yeah, based on.
some of the timing's out of my control,
Yeah.
so
We're just trying to set
so I
up,
got to get,
What's,
you know, to meet that timeline, you guys got to get me
Shoot the arrow if
comments
we
back
can.
quickly. You know, whatever comments you come up with,
yeah,
get back to me as soon as you can. If there's things you want to add or delete or rewrite, I'm sure I was rushing through it, so there's probably typographicals and all kinds of crap in there, but
well, Keith will pick up on that.
that's me testing to make sure he reads it.
Yeah, you know, if Keith read it, if he does, he's gonna, comes up with a
Yeah.
grammar,
Just comes back and says it's
grammatical error.
fine. I'm like, yeah, you didn't read it. Yeah, so I will put together something quickly on the truck driver / laborer. These two you have, so that'd be the 3 positions
Yes.
that are open. We got a little more time on the other position, the existing positions that are full, that I would like to get job descriptions
Yeah,
written and approved and tied to the compensation.
The Springtown meeting.
Correct. So we have a little time to work on that, but to meet these timelines, you gotta go through these quickly. I'll get the other one to you guys as soon as I can. You know, by the end of the week, you guys can review all 3. And as soon as you guys give me the green light, you know, if it's just minor changes that we don't think we need to come back to have everybody agree on it, or I can revise it and say, here, I've revised, added a few things or
Yeah.
whatever. Send
Give
them
me
back.
comments.
Send them back
Yeah.
out to everybody if everyone,
Yeah.
if it comes back with no comments, I'll say, all right,
Yeah,
green light, I'm gonna submit it.
yeah.
and get them right up to Matt.
Okay, so the shooting funds right to.
So approval and post by November. That's less than a month. And then how much time do you want? I mean, I got 2 weeks I gotta post internally.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks internal.
Has to be posted separately internally.
And it has to be done before
Before
it
you
can
can-
go out. So 2 weeks internal.
You'd have to work backwards on the
Right.
calendar.
So I think December might be a
Tight.
tough one to get pulled off because, you know, where are we posting it to? I mean, I can put it in all the trade things that I usually do,
All right, do January.
Quick
Do
and
Ja-
easy,
do
but-
do January first.
but if you guys want it for, I know sometimes you guys always want it on the
We
telegram.
have to do it internally, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's per the bylaw.
So we'll try to shoot for
January meeting.
January meeting to review applications. so, okay. And then, the next thing I wanted to, just a briefing on was just the warrant article discussion for the fall meeting. Was there
I
anything?
don't think I have anything.
Okay, I know you had asked, and I said, no, I can think of, but I didn't know if anything. That
Yeah,
came
we've
up
got
last week, huh?
we've got markers for all the upgrade stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, we don't have anything on there.
I don't have anything specific that isn't tied to one of the
with the
ongoing
okay,
major
okay,
projects.
all right. Okay. The capital, yeah, so I was gonna ask on the, I don't wanna spend too much time on it, but I know it's already getting late. Quick, so just on the FY budget. Did we do, just all the stuff that we had budgeted for, I just kinda wanted to see where we were on that? We had,
I have to see what was on there.
so we had, there was 2 actuators,
Those are done.
those are done.
Collection system repairs I held off and tied to
So
the engineering stuff that we did because we kind of shifted mid-season to make sure we could get the work done that would be necessary for the potential growth.
for which now? What is
So
it?
I didn't do the collection system repairs
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
because I used that money towards some of that engineering work, which is part of the collection system as well.
And then give Wall Street pump rebuild.
That was done. And because they had to replace the motor, it came back at 13 instead of 11.
Okay. So I was gonna punch that numbers into, that was,
It was 13 something. If you need the exact number, I can get it for you.
alright.
The I we're almost done. We're just waiting on the engineers to put together their final report.
That was on
How are they doing on that INI study update?
Well, it's minimal. It's a small portion of what needs to be done. They essentially did a flow monitoring right now, but we haven't got into any of the meat of the INI. So our portion of that is all done. It's just waiting for them to finalize the report. I'd say they're probably 80%, 80 to 90% done on that.
That was actually more than, that was the one that we talked about a couple times, I can't remember. We
Yeah,
budgeted.
we budgeted 50. It was supposed to be 150.
Was 21, 22, 23.
Well, that's what you would put, but because I said it was probably 3 phases, but the first phase was supposed to be 150, so we had to cut the first phase way back, and then just did the flow monitoring.
I had total cost for what you had on the numbers that you gave me.
Yeah, it wasn't the total cost. And as I explained originally when I brought that up, was 150 was phase 1 to get the initial study portion done for phase 1.
Yeah.
You don't have a number for phase 2 and phase 3 until you complete phase 1 and determine how bad things are. Because phase 2 is getting, if
Yeah.
we segregate it into 5 different zones and we come up with these 3 zones aren't a problem, let's just focus on 2.
Yeah.
It's going to be significantly less than if all 5 need to be focused on. So you got to do smoke testing and video cameraing and lateral launchers and everything else. It's significantly more money. So if it turns out you only have an issue in 1 or 2 areas, it's significantly less than if it's in all 5 areas. If it's, so that'll determine phase 2. Phase 3 would be determined. Phase 3 would be the repair. So until you identify what's broken, you can't come up with a number on what it's going to cost to repair.
So we had, in the numbers that you gave us, it was 75,000 for the vulnerability study.
For what? The vulnerability. That's completely different.
That's a different
That came in way under.
Oh yeah, that's right. So what is this
and
one?
I
now?
utilize. This is the INI. So the vulnerability study's done. I have finalized copy.
So then I didn't even have it not even listed in here
For what?
for the INI.
Yeah, it
Is it? Under professional technical?
right here. 150 was my original estimate.
Oh yeah.
I had put 150 one year and 150 the second year. Just ballpark numbers, but like I said, when I originally explained it, you can't determine what the second phase would be until you complete the first phase. So phase one got geared down because we didn't have enough funding to do a complete phase one.
I don't know how that was. No, that's a total. This was just carried over to the 150. So it wasn't 150, 150. That was carried over the total in the line item.
Right, so that then
So
I'd have
that's
to
the-
look at which one because I did 3 or 4 different versions of this because I had it broken down into FY21 and FY22.
Yeah.
So I took some out of FY21 and put them in FY22. So when there was different columns, but
That's
so
that's
then
what
this
we
was still. This was the original cost that was supposed to be done in FY21. And as I explained, there's typically 3 phases to an I&I study. Can't determine the second and third phase until the first phase is complete. And I think I had said it could be 10,000 or it could be 10 million to do the next phase. We don't know until we finish phase 1.
This is, I remember we went through this, and this was how, looking at this was what we went through, so I tried when we did the budget, trying to
Yep.
make that work in the numbers. So that was, how about the filter rehab?
Done.
There's 2 of those. And this one we spent, total cost was 150, so we had spent, how much did we spend on that so far?
For the I&I,
Yeah,
well, the total cost for phase 1 would have been 150.
well, what did
We budgeted 50, and then we had to go back and get more, and I want to say it was 68 or 69. It was right around 70,000, 69 something. So I want to say it was 70, which we did an additional article to transfer funds to
yeah.
finalize phase, that portion of phase 1.
Mm-hmm. Water. That's both. Yes. Sewer. This building is 3,500 for mowing and skating.
Yeah, I called Erickson multiple times. I don't recall what their last comment was, but we did not move forward with that yet.
So, in the water there was an additional 142. Sewer there was 127 additional. Oh yeah, here we go. 75, yeah. On the early study, 75,000.
Came way under budget. That's what we
20,000.
we utilized some of the difference in that
to offset the
to do the
yeah.
engineering to
Yeah.
move forward on that project.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability study is done. I have a copy. I just got it this week.
Yeah.
So that we need to have a executive session to go over that because there's critical infrastructure information in that, and it identifies where we're vulnerable, and we don't want that as public information.
Okay. Building repairs of the primary fence and repairs. Building repairs, primary fence, and then just general repairs.
Yeah, we held off on those because that was part of the money that went towards the engineering because we had
Okay.
a couple $100,000 I had to try to move around to get enough money to get the engineering stuff done.
Land study. Cemetery street pipe.
That was
supplies,
done.
That was done. What was that? What do you know the total on that was? It was a little bit more, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, I want to say it was like 21, somewhere around there. Because we ended up doing, instead of, we originally thought it was going to be 500 feet, it ended up being 900 feet.
yeah.
Because there was a portion of the
Yeah.
section in between.
And primary generator, we had 33.
Been ordered.
Was that number good?
Yep, came in a little under.
Okay, good.
Or at least that's what I was quoted. We're still waiting, so,
Okay.
you know, when all said and done, theoretically,
Just like-
they have to stick to their quote, but,
Yeah, I just wanted to adjust the, I want to go in and adjust it also, so when I pull it up, it goes and try to carry it over to the next. And then for the FY '22 budget, there was 277,000 was, I believe, what you guys approved for
additional,
additional.
I'd have to double check on that. But
Yeah.
That was the number I was told. I was trying to remember. I wrote it down when I remember talking about it at the meeting. I was asking about it.
yeah, I'd have to double check. I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah.
but I can look
Just-
at that for the next meeting if you want.
Okay, just so you know, kind of just to track them, so we can track and know. Because a lot of times we do in the budget, it's a lot easier if we know
Yeah.
so you don't have to go back and go through the entire budget every time. You know, if you did this, you can pull this out. You know, if you had another expense, you can plug it in.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier just tracking purposes.
Yeah.
So that's only how the FY '22 is. If I could, you know what, if I could get a
Yeah, I
full,
can't bend down, so.
Yeah.
if I could get a full copy of that, the FY '22 budget, and then a breakdown of that 277, and how that, and what accounts that's gonna be coming out of. Just so I can try to carry this, I wanna carry the FY '21 when I put the,
Mhm.
you know, if I just continue like as I'm going through it. So I don't have to do it every year, and it's a lot easier to
Yep.
plug it in. That was a draft one, I think it was. Yeah, that was just a draft, okay. It was that I just don't tell you on that. Only thing I'll think of is the what's the feedback on all the, have we got any feedback on the new rate structure? Have anybody?
Very, very little.
Very low?
We had, off the top of my head, we had one customer call and say, what happened with my bill? It's so high. And then when she was called back, it was, oh, well, I do have the best floral, flowers and grass, and I've got a new pool, and,
Yeah.
so,
And I heard somebody else complain because they filled their pool.
yeah, there's another one that was complaining. So we have one that's complaining that they filled their pool, and they want to see the bylaw that says that they can't fill their pool with the drinking water. And they're not going to pay their bill until they get that bylaw, which has nothing to do with whether we have the bylaw or not. The water went through your meter, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Right, and regardless of that, we don't have exception meters, nor do we allow them. So if you use it for things outside of drinking water, which our water ban specifically states, no non-essential water use,
Right.
which a pool is not essential. Either there's water in your lawn or, except for establishing new lawn, that's the only time it's allowed. And that water ban is put into effect per DEP, per our Water Management Act permit, which I advised the selectmen not to sign based on the stipulations in the Water Management Act permit, and based on town council's comments, they went ahead and signed it. So they agreed to the stipulations that were set forth in that permit, which include the water bans annually. So from May 1st to September 30th, you're not allowed to have any non-essential outdoor water use, even in a year like this where we had
Right.
more rain, and I wish I could have got rid of some of the water out of the well field because I had too much in the well field. We still have to issue a water ban. So it's regardless of.
Don't we have something in writing that you can't fill up the swimming pool?
I got to go find it, but yeah, it's there.
I'm positive I don't know if it's a bylaw.
I believe it's in the bylaw.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, it's that aside, it's in the state mandated portion of our Water Management Act permit that was signed by the selectmen and approved. mandated by the state. You know, we originally got town council involved and started fighting them on it because I didn't agree with a lot of things they had in there. And then they made some concessions, and town council said that's probably the best you're going to get, and they went along with town council's recommendation. Personally, I would have fought them longer because I still don't agree with some of the things that were in there, or the fact that they cut our withdrawal permit down based on DCR, who was stealing water from us multiple times over the years, and we've caught them doing it. So
Oh, yeah, but
with the common,
Common.
yeah.
What was that?
Up at the common, we caught DCR stealing water multiple times, and you know they're the ones saying that we don't need to withdraw as much water as we were originally permitted, so they got our permit cut, so we don't have as much available water right now. But yeah, they're stealing water that we could be using for development and growth,
All right.
bring in ratepayers. So
yeah.
I disagreed with the permit the way it was written, but at the recommendation of town council, they agreed to it. So that aside, like I said, it was in the water withdrawal permit, and regardless of any of that, if the water went through your meter, you got to pay for it. So,
Right.
I mean, if he doesn't pay his bill, it's going to go through the same process as anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a problem shutting my mother off when she didn't pay. I won't have a problem shutting him off. You know, so I actually like my mother. So you know,
I've heard of guys like you shutting them up. Water off on your mother.
pay your bill.
Yeah. All right.
Don't put me in that position.
So, okay, so then, that's all I have. Anything else?
Yeah, but I was surprised we had very little comments.
Yeah, I figured there'd be,
I thought so too, but
I thought there'd be a lot.
yeah.
The only thing I was gonna question on that, and I haven't done the math on it to figure out, is when they say, what was it, 0 to what, 3,000?
3,000. I think it's 0 to 3,000. Yeah.
I question whether that 3,000 should be up to what an average
Well,
family uses.
the average single-family house number that we used was 4,300, and that was based on numbers back in probably 2009 when I originally established those numbers for this department, based on usages that were back then, and when I was going to DPU, arguing rates for other towns that I was doing rate increases and stuff for. So that number is outdated.
Yeah.
For one, so to justify that from a 2009 usage number, and houses are designed more with efficient fixtures and everything nowadays than they were back then. So if I actually went through and established a new, which would have taken a decent amount of effort for me to go through and try to determine what an average single-family house would be.
I guess if you take
Doesn't
an
the
average,
state
well,
determine
let's say
that?
for an average 3-bedroom house, like for a septic design, they
Right.
base it on 50 gallons a day per person per bedroom. So average family house,
I thought it
150
was
gallons.
110, but I thought the original Title V was 110 gallons per minute per person.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Right,
You
so
are
that's,
yes,
Title
yes,
V was 110.
yes, 110 gallons.
But
a day
Mass
per person.
DEP requires us to fall under the residential gallon per day capita of 65. So it's 65 per person per day. So it's to use the 110 of the 65. 65 is our water end of it.
Well, let's look at
110 is the sewer end of it.
If we looked at the, if you did, I'll do the math out. I'm just curious, just for curiosity's sake. If you do the math out and see what an average.
If you went on the
Yeah.
110
Yeah,
per person per day, it's going to far exceed what we have.
yeah,
Really?
It's going to far exceed the 4,300. I can almost guarantee you that.
yeah. I'm just thinking an average single-family house with three-bedroom single-family house. What is their bill typically?
It's 50 gallons per day per person, right?
No, 110.
is what for
110.
Title V.
So per person, so what do they consider people per bedroom? Because it doesn't go per bedroom, it goes
100.
per person per.
Well, for 110, so it's 330 gallons a day for a 3-bedroom house.
Okay, because I don't think they consider a 3-bedroom house to be 3 people, because they assume
No.
a mother and father in one, and then
Yeah, it's per bedroom. They go
right.
by
So it's per bedroom is
Yes.
100. So 330 gallons a day times. I'll just do 365 divided by 2 is 60,225 gallons per billing cycle.
Divide that by,
How many gallons?
So 8,051 cubic feet.
so 8,000.
Like I said, that far exceeds what the average water usage per person, or what I used. You know, the average would be about 4,300. That was typical back in 2009.
But is it realistic though? That's what I guess, I mean, the
Right.
difference
So,
between what
realistically, based on our numbers, our average gallon per day per person is in the 50s. So, so if you did 50, if you use that same methodology, it'd be about half of that. So you're right in the ballpark of what I said for 4,300.
Well, if you're using the
It's
same
about
methodology,
4,000,
say 50
but-
per person, right? So if you use
Right.
it, that would be 300 a day. If you get 2 people per room, is that what you're thinking?
Well, no, it's not 2 per room. It's
Oh, yeah.
like I said, it's
It's per 110 gallons per Title
right,
V.
so it's a little right.
There you go by per.
So if I went by the same methodology of 3 people for a 3-bedroom, and we use because it comes out, it's per person.
So they break
I
it down
forget
per
what-
person,
right.
Pete, and
I
Title
wanna
V
say-
is it per bedroom.
Douglas, I think, came out to 2.75 people per house, is what the average number was. So if you did that math, we're under the 4,300. So I want to say, I think that might be where I came up with the 3,000 number, was based on what our residential capita per day is,
Yeah.
and what the average usage should be based on our capita per day.
So I'm just thinking if you just broke, if you divided that out, it came out to, yeah, so it'd be like, so 330 gallons a day with Title V requirements would be, if you said there was, in a normal situation, it'd be 4 people. Figure if you had, you know, parents and then 2 other bedrooms. So
Right.
it'd be 4 people. So 330 divided by 4 is what?
They figured
Was it
50 gallons per day per person, right?
Well, the guidelines for drinking water is 65 gallons per day per person. And like I said, for Douglas, the average based on the census is 2.75 people per house. And I think that is the numbers that I used when I did my calculations and came up with the 300 cutoff number, was what the average based on Douglas's numbers should be using per household.
So what's the, if you divide 330 by 4, how many gallons a day per person is that?
82.5, which is above what we would be allowed. If we had this per person in Douglas, the state would require us to start implementing programs to put water conservation efforts in.
Yeah.
They would require us to offer
I'm willing.
low flow appliances, low flow
Right.
fixtures. We would have to come up with a program to start getting those established.
And it's designed for, so there's always a buffer in Title V. It's designed for 330 a day, 3-bedroom, but there's a buffer in there built into that. So
Right.
it's,
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have
reality
some-
would be a little bit less.
What does
Right.
Title V use for a number?
110 per bedroom.
How much?
110 gallons per bedroom per day.
Well, and we're figuring 50,
Our average is roughly 50.
roughly 50, yeah.
Because we're under the 65, which is what DEP uses as a trigger. If we're over 65 gallons per day, or we're over the 10% unaccounted for, it triggers additional stuff that we have to offer and start implementing.
Right.
Well, I'm just thinking for billing purposes, for a reality
Right.
on billing. So if you average that out to come out and see what
Right,
the
so-
reality is, what an average 3-family uses, 3-bedroom house uses.
Right. So I don't know what an average 3-bedroom. It would take a lot more work in me going to the assessors and everything to figure out every
Yeah,
every
well,
house
it's
that's on the system.
Right, but you don't know how many people are in the 3-bedroom house. You have one.
Right, but you don't know how many are 3-bedrooms as compared to 2-bedrooms, or
Yeah, I understand.
You could have
this-
two people, or you could have 3
Oh, I know.
for a 3-bedroom, it's-
But I'm just thinking for billing purposes, if it was
yeah.
right. And like I said,
a realistic number
I
to be. 'Cause
I
it's
think
gotta come up.
originally, and that's the basis that I used. I'd have to go through and double check it, but
Yeah,
based on what our residential capita per day is,
yeah,
and based on what the census and the numbers that I have to use in the annual stats report, are based on what the population is and how many gallons per day per person. I think I went through and figured out what the average usage should be, and that was probably the 3,000. So our old number of the 4,300 was based on reality back in 2009 as to what going through DPU and records across the state, not just Douglas, was the typical average single family used 4,300 a day.
Yeah. You get two people. Two people will be at the 25 to 3,000. Two adults. You're gonna be somewhere.
You'd be surprised that the number, if you went through the chart, and I had that when I was doing on the computer, showing where the break points were. And the majority of our system is, I want to say it was maybe 3,300 was the break point, is the majority is under that. And most of the other ones are multifamilies or, commercial or whatever. So, and that was kind of the rationale behind how we designed the rate structure, was that we didn't want to affect the fixed income people that are conserving water, and you have to have some kind of incentive for the people that are using the more water up to the 4,300. You got to give them a little incentive, and it's really minimal difference in the bill.
I know it is, but it's hard to balance that. It is how you do different tiers like that, because you can make the argument, and Bob can make it. I mean, I could make it only just for personal stuff from apartments. Is that people who have the apartments are probably less off than people that on the fixed incomes of the house, at least on that own house.
Right.
So,
So
they get hit the hardest because we have to raise the rent.
well,
Because of
that depends on how you look at it. Because if you look at the apartment buildings, which I did, and there was one that was recently redone, and I tried pushing him and told him, you're better off if you separate your plumbing and have separate services for each one, so you can just pass that bill on to the tenant. And if you do that, which in my opinion it should be separated,
Oh yeah, no.
that way
I know which one you're
if,
talking.
if, a,
Absolutely.
if a bill doesn't get paid,
Those are townhouse style.
right, and if a bill doesn't get paid, you can shut off that particular unit.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got a huge bill, and I've had tenants where, the landlord came in screaming and yelling at us that we're ripping him off, and his bill was huge. It was like $3,000, and he only had one tenant in the place, and he came in screaming and yelling at us, there's no possible way, all his fixtures or whatever, and came back the next day saying, sorry, my tenant didn't have money to pay for oil, so she just turned the water on and let it run so the pipes wouldn't freeze. So, it's one of the downfalls of being a landlord is you're at the mercy of tenants wasting water.
But typically, I was using the example as far as an income base versus you were looking at the people on fixed incomes and things keeping their rates lower versus. I mean, a lot of those people fall in that same category, but unfortunately, they're gonna get bumped up into a different category because if you have a top,
and I understand that, and like I said, so this would incentivize people building multifamily units to put separate services in for each unit. So then it would be, we can shut off particular units instead of entire buildings. If we shut off an entire building, we have to go post it on the whole apartment place if the landlord doesn't pay it.
Right.
And then the tenants have the ability to pay it. Now you're stressing their finances because they're trying to pay a whole water bill so they don't lose water.
Yeah.
And then if it's an $8,000 water bill, and they're like, all right, my rent's $1,000 a month. It's 8 months before they can, of not paying their rent to recover that money.
Yeah.
We have one tenant in town that does it every single time.
Yeah.
The landlord won't pay it. The tenant goes and pays it and just deducts it from his rent. But it's stupid because he adds, demand charge, interest, a shut-off fee. It's just dumb to manage it that way.
Yeah.
So
my analogy was just simply the income of the people. So it's not. I understand what you're saying with the lower tier effects. Primarily you're trying to the fixed income people, but
and I understand your argument
side.
on typically if you're in an apartment, you're not as well off as someone that owns a house.
Yeah. So.
But we also looked at that before on shut-offs and payment plans, and we wouldn't allow it on multifamily because a multifamily building is the landlord's responsibility, and it's a business to them. They got revenue coming in from it. And I understand the other argument that whatever we raise it, they're just going to raise the rent to offset
tenants
it.
ultimately pay it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Right.
the
And I understand that, but like I said, if you had it individually, I would say 90% of the apartments, when I look at them and try to factor how many units, they come out far under the 3,000 per unit.
Yeah.
So if you had separate services, they would be paying the minimal
Yeah.
bills, and they'd be at the lowest tier rate. So theoretically, if we push to have separate services for every unit, the tenants would be better off, the landlords would be, everybody would be better off.
It's hard on the older buildings.
I understand that. I know it's already existing, and
The plumbing goes right through
But-
the whole.
I average mine out, and they seem to be running about the same.
Mine's always been pretty good. My tenant's always been pretty decent on it.
yeah,
A couple
but
times I've had it spikes way up, but
yeah, because you can get the
yeah,
disgruntled
yeah.
tenant
For the
that
most part.
he's got to pay the
I fall
water bill.
below probably below on that.
Yeah.
But I have 2 meters in the front building. And then, one in
Right,
the back.
so that helps you.
Yes.
You know, the one in particular that I was talking about, he's probably really kicking himself now for not putting in the separate units. Because he just
I know
kind of,
one of my multi-families uses less water than the two families.
yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, I know that factor of it,
Yeah.
but to promote doing it the right way in the future, people building these, you know, this kind of aligns it to say, hey, here's more incentive
Oh,
for you to set it up
Townhouse
correctly.
would be crazy not to
Yeah.
not to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was putting up townhouses, I
I
would.
think it would be insane not
But
to
Yeah,
have.
you pay,
while you're doing it, just
you pay your own water and sewer.
yeah, 'cause then
Yeah,
you
that's-
can allow to do,
Right.
if it's metered like that. You can,
And then you could sell them off as townhouse units.
yeah, if you wanted to convex them, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, there's only so much
I'm
I
just
can
curious.
bend to make numbers
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
and it was either we went with this structure or we went across the board at like a 30 or 40% increase, and then everybody gets stiff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I got to, one of mine almost doubled, but I'm not sure if the usage was more too, so I don't know. I haven't really quite figured it out. One stayed about the same. The 3-family stayed the same, the 5-family. Actually, the 5-family, that is less than my 3-family, so I gotta go in there and check. There's gotta be something going on.
we got ditabs.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta get some tablets from you.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I thought maybe there'd be a lot more.
Yeah.
More.
We were all anticipating more, but the due date was yesterday. Typically, we would have had the majority of the complaints by now.
I better pay my bill then.
Yeah.
And the pay is.
Yeah, I need a few more days.
So yeah, I had to laugh when I went through the outstanding list.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Due date? Already? Time flies. I'll get it in.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. What time is it on the clock?
Yeah, 9:25.
Make a motion to adjourn at 9:25.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.